For an Amish farming family, losing $8,000 worth of crops is not abstract. Winter food storage is gone. Next year's seed money vanished. It is 6 months of mortgage payments erased overnight. What happens next reveals a system most people never see. Real impact. $8,000 represents a catastrophic loss on an Amish farm. It is not just numbers on paper, it is 200 bushels of wheat that would have fed the family and livestock through winter. It is corn that was 3 weeks from harvest, already sold to a local feed mill on contract. It is the cash needed to pay property taxes in November and buy replacement equipment in spring. For a family operating on tight margins without government subsidies or emergency credit, this loss threatens the farm's survival for the next 12 months. No safety net. Amish farmers do not carry federal crop insurance. They reject participation in USDA disaster assistance programs, including the non-insured crop disaster assistance program that covers losses for farmers without insurance. They do not apply for emergency farm loans from the Farm Service Agency. They refuse Social Security, unemployment benefits, and welfare programs. This rejection is not a financial calculation. It is religious conviction. The Amish believe that depending on government safety nets compromises their separation from the world and their trust in God's providence through community. When American farmers lose crops to weather disasters, most file insurance claims or apply for federal disaster payments that can take months to process. The Amish have built a parallel system that operates entirely outside government and commercial insurance structures. Biblical foundation. The Amish aid plan operates on a principle from 2 Corinthians 6:14, which warns against being unequally yoked with unbelievers. The Amish interpret this to mean avoiding financial partnerships with secular institutions, including insurance companies. Commercial insurance, from their perspective, represents a lack of faith in God's provision and community support. It binds them to worldly systems that operate on profit rather than Christian duty. Insurance companies calculate risk, charge premiums, and seek to minimize payouts. The Amish system operates on mutual obligation and shared burden. Members contribute when others face disaster because they know their turn will come. This is not a business transaction. It is the practice of Christian charity and community responsibility that has defined Amish society for generations. The aid plan documents, some written in German before 1915, formalize practices that existed informally long before that. Aid plan structure. Amish aid plans vary by settlement. The Indiana plan, formalized in writing during the 1930s Depression, covers fire, lightning, storm, and tornado damage to property. The plan operates through local church districts, with each district maintaining its own fund and administrative structure. Pennsylvania settlements follow similar principles, but with different organizational details. Some communities cover only barn fires and lightning strikes. Others include wind damage and hail. Almost none cover drought or gradual crop failure, only sudden disaster events like floods or storms. The plans do not cover every type of loss. Crop damage from rain, as in this case, falls into a gray area that some districts cover and others handle through informal community aid, rather than the formal plan. In communities where crop loss is covered, the process follows strict procedures. Church members do not simply show up with cash. There is assessment, calculation, and formal disbursement following rules that have been refined over decades to ensure fairness and prevent abuse of community generosity. Damage assessment. When disaster strikes, the farmer does not file a claim. He notifies the church deacon or a member of the local aid plan committee. Within hours, disinterested brethren arrive to assess the damage. These assessors are chosen specifically because they have no family connection to the affected farmer and no financial stake in the outcome. They are experienced farmers themselves who understand crop values and can estimate losses accurately. They walk the flooded fields, examining how much wheat is salvageable and how much is completely destroyed. They check moisture damage to corn that was nearly ready for harvest. They calculate the market value of the lost crops based on current prices, not inflated estimates. They document everything, often in handwritten ledgers that record the date of loss, type of crops affected, estimated bushels destroyed, and replacement value. This assessment determines how much aid the farmer will receive. The process takes 1 or 2 days, far faster than commercial insurance adjusters who might take weeks to visit the site. The assessors submit their findings to the aid plan committee, which reviews the numbers and authorizes payment based on the plan's established formula. 3/4 coverage. The Indiana Aid Plan, like most Amish disaster plans, pays 3/4 of the estimated loss. If the assessors calculate $8,000 in crop damage, the farmer receives $6,000 from the community fund. This is not arbitrary. The 3/4 rule serves multiple purposes. It ensures the farmer bears part of the loss himself, discouraging carelessness and maintaining personal responsibility for stewardship of the land. It prevents the aid system from becoming a safety net that removes all risk from farming. The Amish believe risk is inherent in agricultural life and that farmers should not be completely insulated from the consequences of weather events. The partial payment also stretches community resources further, allowing the fund to help more families when multiple disasters strike in a single season. The farmer who loses $8,000 worth of crops absorbs $2,000 of that loss personally. This might come from savings, from selling livestock, or from cutting household expenses for several months. The 3/4 payment is not a loan. It does not need to be repaid. It comes from the collective contributions of all church district members who understand that their own farms could face similar disaster at any time. The payment arrives quickly, usually within a week of the assessment, giving the farmer immediate resources to begin recovery. Property assessment. To fund the aid payment, the church deacon assesses all members of the district based on property value. This is not an annual premium like insurance. Members do not pay into the fund regularly. Instead, when disaster strikes, everyone contributes according to their means. A farmer with 200 acres and substantial buildings pays more than a young family just starting out with 40 acres. The assessment is proportional to what each member owns, spreading the burden fairly across the community. If the aid payment totals $6,000 and the district has 50 families with varying property values, the deacon calculates each family's share. A large farm operation might contribute $300. A small farm might pay $50. The deacon visits each household personally, collecting contributions in cash or check. There are no billing statements mailed out, no online payment portals. The deacon knocks on doors, explains the situation, and receives payment on the spot or within a few days. This door-to-door collection reinforces the personal nature of mutual aid. Members are not sending money to an anonymous fund. They are directly helping a neighbor whose name they know, whose children attend the same schoolhouse, whose family sits in the same church services. The collection usually takes less than a week, and the full amount is delivered to the affected farmer shortly after. Immediate labor. While the financial aid plan processes the assessment and payment, physical help arrives immediately. The morning after the flood, neighbors appear in the damaged fields without being asked. They come with shovels, drainage tools, and workhorses. They dig channels to drain standing water from sections of the field where crops might still be saved. They assess which rows of corn can be salvaged and which should be plowed under. They cut and remove damaged wheat before mold spreads to undamaged sections. This labor is not coordinated through phone calls or text messages. The Amish operate on the principle that disaster requires immediate response, and church members know their presence is expected. Older men with decades of farming experience direct younger workers on salvage techniques. Teenage boys work alongside their fathers, learning how to respond when disaster strikes their own farms someday. Women arrive mid-morning with baskets of food, setting up tables in the barn or under shade trees. They prepare lunch for 20 or 30 workers, understanding that physical labor requires substantial fuel. The work continues for several days, depending on the extent of damage and what can be saved. No one tracks hours worked. No one submits invoices for labor. This is mutual aid in action, the same help these workers will receive when their own farms face disaster. The affected farmer does not direct the work or supervise the crews. He works alongside them, grateful for hands that multiply his own effort. Harvest donation. The $6,000 aid payment covers the financial loss, but it does not replace the actual wheat and corn that the family needed for winter. Commercial farmers who lose crops can buy replacement grain from elevators or feed suppliers. Amish families rely on food they grow themselves, particularly for livestock feed and household consumption. Within days of the flood, neighbors begin arriving with donations from their own harvests. A farmer whose wheat came in strong before the rains brings 20 bushels to help replace lost grain. Another contributes corn from his storage crib, knowing the affected family will need it to feed dairy cows and chickens through winter. These donations are not small token gestures. They represent real sacrifice. A farmer who gives away 30 bushels of wheat is reducing his own family's reserve or cutting into grain he planned to sell for cash income. The Amish view this as Christian duty, not charity. They do not keep records of who gave what or expect repayment in kind. The assumption is that generosity flows in all directions over time, and everyone both gives and receives according to need. Some families contribute canned goods, recognizing that flood damage might have destroyed the garden that would have provided vegetables for winter storage. Others donate seed for replanting, understanding that the farmer's seed stock may have been ruined by moisture. These donations arrive quietly, often left in the barn or by the kitchen door without announcement, continuing for weeks after the initial disaster as families assess what they can spare to help their neighbor recover. Future obligation. The farmer who receives $6,000 in aid, volunteer labor, and donated crops incurs no formal debt. There are no repayment schedules, no interest charges, no legal obligations recorded in any document, but there is an unspoken expectation that shapes Amish community life. When another farmer faces disaster, this man will contribute his share to the assessment. When a barn burns down 3 districts over, he will join the work crew. When a neighbor's crops fail next season, he will donate from his own harvest. This reciprocal obligation is not enforced through contracts or courts. It operates through social accountability and shared values. An Amish farmer who received help but refused to help others would face community disapproval that makes continued membership in the church district untenable. The system works because everyone understands that disaster is unpredictable and universal. A farmer who escapes flood damage this year might face barn fire next year. The family whose crops survived this storm might lose everything in the next one. Mutual aid spreads risk across the entire community rather than leaving individuals to bear catastrophic losses alone. This model has sustained Amish agriculture through the Great Depression, when many commercial farmers lost their land to foreclosure, while Amish farms survived through community support. It has worked through droughts, floods, and economic downturns that bankrupted farmers who depended on banks and government programs. The farmer who lost $8,000 worth of crops will recover. He will plant again, and when he does, he will do so knowing that his community has invested in his survival and expecting that he will do the same for others when their turn comes. The strength of this system lies not in its efficiency, but in its consistency. Commercial insurance companies can deny claims, declare bankruptcy, or raise premiums to unaffordable levels after major disasters. Government programs can be delayed by bureaucracy, changed by new legislation, or cut during budget crises. The Amish mutual aid system has operated continuously for over a century because it depends on people, not institutions. It survives generational changes because children grow up watching their parents contribute to aid assessments and join work crews. By the time a young farmer purchases his first land, he has already participated in a dozen barn raisings and seen multiple families receive disaster aid. He understands the system not as abstract policy but as lived experience.